Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Simple Knit podcast. This is a video vlog style podcast all about the things that I've been knitting recently. My name is Elina and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Simple Knit Co. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast which I will link in the description box below. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today to talk all things knitting. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome, it's lovely to meet you. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, it is a pleasure to spend some time with you today. So I'm hoping I can do like a one-take wonder today, which never happens, but I am a little bit short on time this morning, but I still wanted to take some time this weekend to sit down and just show you what I've been working on, which is also admittedly not that much. I just kind of wanted to sit and talk to a camera for a few minutes. So thank you for indulging in my vanity. Please grab yourself a drink. I've got myself a coffee. It's a beautiful, as always, beautiful sunny Sunday morning here in Brisbane, Australia, where I'm from and where I'm recording and living. That was a weird way to say that. But wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having good weather, good seasonal weather, and that everything's going well. Let me know how you are in the comments below. I always love to say hello. So yes, let's get on to the knitting, I guess. There we go. I love this mug. It's from my friend and friend of the show, Phil Hancock. Very cute bunny mug. So I've only really been knitting on two projects with kind of tangible progress, I guess, this week. So the first one is one that you did see last week, and it looks more like a garment this week. So this is the Yuri top by Amy Miller from issue 16-ish of Ami Risu magazine. And although I haven't made much progress, it was more of a willpower progress than anything else. I seamed up the front. If you watched last week's episode, you saw this looked like kind of a weird front fastening bra, but I have seamed up the front and then picked up the stitches for the body. So I'm just going to try and hold this up in a way that my knitting doesn't fall into my coffee. So I also feel like I'm very high on the camera this week. Oh well. So here we go. So as you can see, I've seamed up the front here, and you kind of do the mattress stitch from the back. So you get this little exposed seam of all of your selvage stitches, which is really cool. And I was pretty careful with my tension on the mattress stitch because, I mean, I'm a tight knitter anyway, but I also tend to go a bit like gung-ho on the mattress stitch. And this yarn is Fibersmith hand-dyed alpaca, linen and silk, and I don't think they dye this colorway anymore, but it's called Eucalyptus with Iron, I think. Naturally dyed with eucalyptus and iron. So it's this really pretty color. But anyway, so it's alpaca, linen and silk, so yarns that don't have a lot of natural elasticity and give. So I did end up doing the mattress stitch twice just because it was a little bit tight, and there are a couple of spots where I'm just looking at it now. Oh no, it's not too bad. Where it's quite tight, but yeah, so you get this cool little seam detail up the front, and then you pick up stitches all the way around the body. So picking up stitches, returning viewers will know, hate it, absolutely hate it. And on like a bound off edge all the way around, picking up like hundreds of stitches is absolute torture. I was trying really hard to get them even, so I ended up doing this like 2 or 3 times. So my finger was really sore because basically I had stabbed myself with a stick in the finger like 500 times yesterday. But I persevered. Where's my Nobel Prize? And I've picked up all the stitches, and then it's just now the bit that I was looking forward to on this top, just knitting stockinette in the round for ages. So yes, I am doing some helical knitting, which is the very trendy way to alternate skeins at the moment. So yes, I'm very on trend doing some helical knitting. I did say when I think I said this last episode, even though this is hand dyed, naturally dyed, all of that yarn, that usually there's quite a lot of inconsistency from my experience so far using a couple of different balls and not alternating skeins. You can't tell. This is really, the color is really consistent, but I don't want to risk it on the body of a garment, so I am just going to alternate skeins, just basically better to be safe than sorry. And helical knitting does make it really, really easy, especially when you just have a lot of stockinette stitch. I will link to if you're not familiar with it, I'll link to a tutorial about it below, but basically all you do is, you can kind of see, very terrible explaining time. I have this second ball is just kind of hanging off here, back here. So all you do is kind of drop your yarn, slip 3 stitches, and then pick up with the next ball of yarn. And so then when I get to 3 stitches before this little string, I'll drop the yarn I'm working with, slip these 3 stitches, and pick up and start knitting with the other one. So you just kind of keep knitting in a helix, which is why it's called helical knitting. I don't know where the end of that sentence was going, but yes, I'm really happy with this so far. I'm really glad it's at the stage where it's just not thinking knitting. I am going to a friend's place this morning, and we're hanging out for a while, so, which is also why I'm on a bit of a time crunch. But yeah, this will be really good, just like sitting around playing board games, chatting, watching movies, kind of knitting. So I'm very glad it's at that stage, because this is what I wanted. This is why I was looking forward to this project, was for the stockinette section that just seemed to never come. So that is my Yuri top by Amy Miller, and I'm knitting it on the recommended needle size as well. The other project I have to talk to you about, you'll remember last week I showed you some new yarn. I was talking about all the projects I might be doing. Thank you to everyone who gave me shawl suggestions last week. They're all on the list. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do, but thank you so much for your suggestions. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to cast on something new, and so obviously I cast on none of the things that I talked about last week. I cast on something else. So I've had this yarn in my stash to make this particular project for ages. I bought this yarn a really long time ago. Here you go. This is white gum wool, which is from a farm in, I believe it's in Tasmania. I'm like 99% sure it's in Tasmania. It's a big merino farm, and the sheep are very, very well looked after. They live in family groups. It's all very, I'll link their website below. It's really quite amazing what they have been able to accomplish. And they also make really, really beautiful yarn. So this is their 4-ply in the shade Sedge, and it's coming up a little bit. In real life, it's kind of richer and warmer. It's a little bit greener on screen than it is in real life, from what I can see. Oh no, there we go. Now it's getting pretty accurate. It's just like a really warm, mustardy. Didn't drop it in my coffee, it's fine. It's a really kind of warm, mustardy, yellowy, orange kind of colour. Yeah. And the yardage on this yarn is crazy. So it is 100 grams of a 4-ply or fingering weight yarn and 472 meters. That's bonkers. And it's still really plump and lovely. It's not super tightly, like the twist isn't really tight, but it's really like soft and squishy, and it has so much elasticity. It's crazy. This yarn is amazing. So if you can get your hands on some white gum wool, they do a 4-ply and an 8-ply, so a fingering and a DK. They have a 12-ply kind of bulky-ish boucle yarn, and they also do a sport weight 5-ply that is a merino silk blend, and they have really beautiful colors. Highly, highly recommend white gum wool. But anyway, So the project I'm knitting, I bought this yarn specifically for a project, which is the Midsummer Rose Shawl by Elina, who is a Norwegian knitwear designer. And this shawl is so beautiful. I encourage you to go and look at pictures of the finished one. It's massive. I knew it would be big, but then because of the amount of yarn it took, but I was reading the, when I actually sat down to read the pattern, I think the finished wingspan is like 2.5 meters. So I'm going to be knitting on this project for a while, and it's quite, I don't know why I'm hesitant to say complicated, because I think if I say it was like a really complicated lace pattern, I feel like that's like a humble brag, which is, it's not. And that's clearly something I just have to sit on and think about within myself. But it is quite a complicated lace shawl with quite a few different charts. With lace, I prefer to read the words rather than look at the chart. Cables, I prefer looking at the chart than reading the words. But lace, I prefer reading the words. I don't know if anyone else is similar. Do you prefer words or charts? Let me know down below. But for lace, I do prefer reading the words. Maybe I'm going to try on one of the transition charts or something to actually use the chart and see how I go. But yeah, anyway, there's lots of charts. There's kind of I think there's like 3 big repeatable sections, and then there's some transition charts for in between them. And I'm almost finished the first repeatable section. But yeah, this is going to be a huge shawl. I think it takes close, I think it's like 1400 meters is the yardage. And I have obviously heaps of yarn, so I'm not super concerned. I did go up a needle size, so I think it's recommended on 3.5, and I'm knitting this on 3.75 high sharps. The best needles for doing lace, especially if you're a slightly tight knitter, because I find the metal keeps me a little bit looser, and then they're also super stabby for doing slip stitches and excuse me, and knitting things together. Elina recommends. So yes, I'm just, now I'll show you what I've done. I'm almost finished the first, oh there we go, repeatable section. So as you can see, it's making this really cool, kind of, it's almost like an Art Deco-y kind of arches shape. See if I can get it so you can see. Anyway, it's really gorgeous, and obviously it's going to, because it's really soft merino, it's going to block really lovely, but I've managed to keep my tension nice on the bottom edge. You get a nice little, so this is the neck edge, you get a nice little, I know what the word isn't rim, but that's the only word I can think of. Edge. The neck edge is nice, and just a nice even neck edge. And so far, like with the increases, this hasn't gone weird. I've seen, looking at the projects on Ravelry, there's a bit of a variation about the finished shape. Some people's are really like the little end of the wings. Sorry, my words are not coming well today, are they? But the tips are quite curled in. Some people's it's quite straight. So I think it kind of depends on. I think there's also bits in the pattern where you can do more or fewer repeats. So that might have something to do with it. But yeah, and there are also a couple of Ravelry projects where people have recommended ways to make it smaller, just because it is a massive shawl when it's finished. So they're all on people's Ravelry. There's not that many Ravelry projects for this one, so you should be able to find it. But yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. It's kind of, once again, I feel like this is a humble brag. Like, you have to think about it, but once you're kind of in the rhythm of the pattern, as you know, anyone who does lace knitting, once you're kind of in the rhythm of it, as long as you're kind of paying attention, and yeah, you don't have to, it's like a good amount of thinking, I would say. The charts may get more complicated as I go. I'm not really sure. I think they just have more rows in them. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a long-term project. Kind of anticipating having it done by the end of summer, which is like March, April next year. If I just kind of keep plugging away at it a little bit every week, it'll get done. Obviously, as it goes, there's going to be more and more stitches on the needle, so a row is going to take longer and longer. But yeah, I'm actually really having a ball, having an absolute blast knitting this. Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't done lace knitting for a while, highly recommend. Actually, one of the reasons I picked this up, I gesture at you with a higher sharp and hopefully not stab myself in the face. I saw that, and I've forgotten her name, the Corner of Craft. Oh, what's her name? The Corner of Craft. Who she makes really cute little beaded stitch markers and like chromatic yarns. She has a podcast, and I can't remember her real name, but the Corner of Craft. She is currently knitting a huge lace shawl out of like mohair for her wedding, and that is what inspired me to pick up a nice complex charty, lots of variation lace shawl. So her name will come to me literally as soon as I switch this video off, but the Corner of Craft, that is what inspired me to pick up a nice thinking man's crumpet lace shawl. What? This is why it usually takes 3 or 4 takes for me to film this, because I say weird stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good brain teaser project if that's what you're looking for. So I do have one more thing to show you while I continue to sip my coffee. So I believe this is also something that I'd heard other people on podcasts say. I can't remember if I spoke about this on the podcast. And I'm like, how can you not remember what you talked about? I don't remember if I've actually spoken to you about this on the podcast before. But one of my side hobbies is I like to collect vintage knitting patterns. I usually get them on Etsy or at second-hand shops. But yeah, I like to get me some vintage knitting patterns. Excuse me. I'm just going to cut here. I did say 1 take, but I need to blow my nose. So that's not something you want on camera. And we're back. I know you definitely didn't want to hear that. But yes, as I was saying, I'm pretty sure I've spoken to you about this on the podcast, but I do like to collect vintage knitting patterns. Some I have from secondhand shops, some I've bought online. And I believe I may have shown you, because I do remember thinking about talking about one that had like Australiana kind of knitting patterns. If I have or haven't, I can always go back and check, but I can't be bothered. But I did get a new vintage knitting book. So I got this off of someone from Tasmania, off of Etsy. I also got, what else did I get from this shop? I did get something, I believe I got something else from her shop as well. Oh yeah, I got some hair barrettes. But this is really, really cute. Peyton's knitting book. What's it called? Layettes and Shawls. So there's lots of pictures of real cute babies in really, really cute lace patterns. And there's even little bits in here where whoever owned this originally has like written little notes to herself, which is obviously just gorgeous. There's like little tank tops. Where's the one I want to show you? Oh gosh, so cute. But yeah, you do have to kind of, knitting from a vintage pattern, you do have to do a little bit of like looking into seeing exactly, like just basically like looking at the gauge and working out what needle size you need to, and what yarn weight you need to use. Because some of them are quite not clear. Oh my, look at this baby. I love it. That pattern's called Pam. Oh, here it is, Little Man. This pattern's called Little Man, and look at that little boy. So freaking cute. Anyway, there's some really, really beautiful like baby blankets and shawls and little baby outfits in this one. Kayleen. Look at that baby. So cute. But yeah, as I was saying, when you're knitting kind of vintage patterns, you do have to do a little bit of like thinking and mathsing before you cast on. But there are some really gorgeous patterns, and I mean, this was incredibly inexpensive, and you get lots of patterns, and they're just so freaking cute. So yes, if you are also a vintage knitting pattern enthusiast, please let me know. If you have any fun books, please show me. I would love to see them. It even has some important information, tips in the back. So good. Anyway, yes, that is the last thing I think I have to talk to you about this week. It's been kind of a busy couple of weeks. Yeah. Oh, one other thing, a TV recommendation. So in the last couple of days, I've watched every episode of this already. So it's a new Netflix series. So either if you have a Netflix subscription or you have access to a Netflix subscription, it's a new series called Criminal, and there's United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Spain, and they use the same set. So it's basically just police interrogations. So they use the same interrogation room and back room set and hallway. There is like a feature vending machine and coffee machine that I think should win an Emmy. But so then they have like a different cast, and it's in a different, obviously a different language, different cast, director and everything, but they use the same set for all of them, and there's 3 episodes of each, so that's 12, and they're like 45 minutes an episode. So very easy to watch very quickly, but it's really good. Really, really good. If you enjoy, it's kind of like a police procedural without the procedural bit. It's just the fun interrogation bit. And some really interesting cases, and all of the actors, they've got like really big name actors from all 4 countries in them. So if you watch a lot of kind of European crime shows, you'll see quite a few familiar faces, but really good, really well done, really well acted. Highly recommend. So yes, that's Criminal on Netflix, and that's kind of what I've been watching. I'm trying to read a bit more. Still thinking I can read like 18 books before the end of the year. I believe in myself. So if no one else does, I believe in myself. But yes, so that's kind of what's been going on with me. A bit of a short, sharp, actually I'm looking at the time, not that short, but in terms of prep time and recording time, short for me episode this week. Let me know in the comments below how you're going, what you're working on, anything else you feel inspired to share. I would love to have a chat with you. Come and say hi on Instagram. I'm always down for a chat and to look at what you're making. And yes, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.